It is no small matter when a person feels overwhelmed by sexual desire, especially in times like ours, when the clamor of the world magnifies its voice and parades it before our weary eyes with tireless ingenuity. Yet many make the mistake of thinking that this is merely an accident of biology, an unfortunate glitch in the machinery of the flesh. Others, feeling ashamed, imagine that this struggle makes them uniquely defective, as if they alone in all the world are stalked by this relentless longing. Both views are wrong, and dangerously so. You must understand, this desire that so often seems to rise unbidden within you is not an enemy in itself. It is not an alien invader, but a misdirected, fractured echo of something far greater and holier. For your soul was made to long, and long deeply. You were fashioned with a hunger for union, for communion, for a love that surpasses comprehension. This longing was not implanted as a cruel jest, but as a homing signal pointing ever toward your Maker. But the powers arrayed against you, and there are powers, know full well how this signal can be twisted. They know that the deepest hunger of the human heart can, if subtly redirected, become the strongest chain. Thus they have perfected the art of feeding you countless false images, shallow satisfactions that promise intimacy but deliver only isolation, that promise freedom but enslave the will. This is not mere human weakness. It is spiritual warfare at its most insidious, for it plays not upon your baser instincts alone, but upon the very noblest faculty of your heart, its God-given yearning to belong fully and eternally to another. The counterfeit is most effective when it resembles the real. A bitter potion is easier swallowed when masked in the scent of honey. And in these days trembling on the threshold of what many sense to be a coming awakening of divine power, the assault is intensifying. Why? Because the enemy fears what you will become if you walk free. If your longings are purified, if your heart is unentangled, if your strength is gathered instead of squandered, then you will stand ready to bear the light of that awakening when it comes, and they will do all they can to prevent it. Therefore do not imagine that your struggle is random. It is not. It is targeted. The timing is deliberate. The tempters are desperate. They would rather have you enslaved by lawful pleasures turned lawless than see you free to wield the weapons of prayer, love, and truth that the approaching season will demand. What then is the path? Not the destruction of desire, but its redemption. Not the cold denial of the heart's longing, but its reorientation toward its true end. You must learn, and it is hard, but it is possible, to see in every false image the shadow of a greater reality. To remind your soul that no screen, no body, no fleeting passion can satisfy what was made to be filled only by the infinite. You must, with God's help, train your heart to hunger rightly. And this is a battle fought not by willpower alone, but by grace, by truth, by immersion in what is good and beautiful and eternal. The more your soul is fed with the real, the less it will crave the false. The more it drinks from the fountain, the less it will be deceived by mirages. And as you fight, remember this: your enemy fears most the one who is fully alive, fully free, fully aflame with a holy longing. Become such a person, for the days ahead will need you. If you'd like, I can expand the entire speech like this, unfolding each of the 5 keynotes into a full oration in the same style. Want me to proceed? Here is an expanded passage, weaving together 2 keynotes from your list. The battle is ancient, the weapons are modern, and desire as a distorted echo of divine longing, into one seamless 600-word segment, written in the C.C. Lewis-like style you requested. We are often tempted to believe that the great moral struggles of our lives are new, that we, poor creatures of the 21st century, are uniquely besieged by temptations our forebears could scarcely imagine. It is a comforting thought, for it suggests that perhaps we are not to blame for our failures, that perhaps we are victims of some modern curse, but this is a lie, and a most dangerous one. The battle is not new. It is ancient, older than the stones beneath your feet. Since the first hearts beat within the first bodies, a war has been waged for the allegiance of human desire. What is new is the brilliance of the weapons turned against us. Once, the tempter had to content himself with subtle whispers in the shadows of the mind. Now he commands screens that flicker in every room, images that invade the pocket, algorithms that study your soul with more attention than you yourself dare to give it. Yet, though the tools are modern, the aim remains unchanged, to twist the good gift of longing into a chain that binds. And make no mistake, your sexual desire is a good gift. You were made to long. You were created for union, not merely of bodies, but of souls, for a communion so profound that it prefigures the greater union between creature and creator. But here lies the subtle cruelty of the assault. The adversary does not attack you with an obvious evil. He co-opts your noblest faculties. The yearning for intimacy becomes an itch for gratification. The hunger for connection is replaced by the pursuit of conquest. The holy ache to be known and loved is dulled by empty images, drained of all true personal encounter. The echo of your longing for the divine is muffled beneath the noise of passing pleasure. And all of this is not random. It is strategic. It is warfare, timed with exquisite precision. For even now, even as many sleep, the world trembles on the cusp of an awakening, a fresh outpouring of God's Spirit that will call countless hearts from death to life. The enemy fears this awakening. He fears the army of the awakened, and so his work is to ensure that as many as possible are preoccupied, distracted, and ensnared when the trumpet sounds. What better way to disarm a soldier than to wrap his own desires around him like a net? What better way to blunt a heart than to fill it with counterfeit loves? And so you must be vigilant, not merely against the temptations of the flesh, but against the very worldview that insists that such temptations are harmless, natural, even to be celebrated. There is a better way. Not the dead way of ascetic denial, nor the false freedom of indulgence, but the path of redemption. Your desires need not be silenced. They must be sanctified. They must be taught again to sing in harmony with their original purpose, to drive you toward the eternal embrace for which you were made. How is this done? Not by strength alone, but by grace. Not by hiding from the world, but by filling your mind and heart with what is true, good, and beautiful. The more your soul tastes of the real, the less it will hunger for the false. The more you drink of the living water, the less the stagnant pools of lust will tempt you. You were not made for chains. You were made for glory. Do not let ancient foes wield modern tools to steal your future. Stand firm. The awakening is near, and you must be ready. If you'd like, I can continue this process, expanding the next set of keynotes into similar passages to complete your full speech. Just say, go ahead. Here is a 600-word segment expanding 3 keynotes. The fog of war conceals the real enemy. The coming awakening demands holy readiness, and freedom is fought for, not felt. Written in the C.C. Lewis-like style you requested, one of the great tragedies of spiritual warfare is not that so many are defeated, but that so few understand the battlefield. They wander through the fog, swinging their swords at shadows, weary and confused, never quite seeing the real enemy. This confusion is not accidental. It is part of the enemy's strategy to conceal his true presence and purpose, so that the child of God exhausts himself fighting the wrong foe, or worse, no foe at all. So it is with the battle against sexual temptation. Many believe they are wrestling merely with their own bodies or with some unique flaw in their minds. They blame their weakness, their upbringing, their environment. They even grow to resent the humanity itself. But the body is not the enemy, the mind is not the enemy, even desire itself is not the enemy. These are the fields upon which the war is fought, not the generals who plot against you. The real enemy is unseen and ancient, a deceiver who delights in twisting the good gifts of God into snares. His tactic is to make the fog so thick that you forget there is a war at all, that you begin to believe that giving in is natural, inevitable, even harmless. And all the while, his true aim is far larger than your personal struggle. He seeks to render you unfit for the coming battle. For we stand on the brink of a great awakening. Though many cannot see it yet, the winds of the Spirit are rising. A fresh move of God is stirring across the earth, a time when many hearts will be turned back, when the sleeping will awake, when light will pierce the darkness. The enemy knows this, he fears it, and so he fights not with brute force, but with subtle seduction. If he can keep you entangled in private sin, he knows you will shrink from public witness. If he can weigh you down with guilt, he knows you will lack the courage to stand when the hour of need arises. If he can make you feel powerless, he knows you will never wield the authority you have been given. The enemy's goal is not merely to tempt you, but to sideline you before the final trumpet sounds. In this light, you must understand that freedom is not something you wait to feel. It is something you must fight to claim. Too many wait for some mystical sensation of release before they act. They believe that only when they feel victorious can they live victoriously. But the war does not work this way. A soldier does not wait to feel brave before entering the fray. He enters the fray. So it is with you. You must act now in faith, even when desire roars and strength falters. You must refuse to bow to the counterfeit promises of fleeting pleasure. Every act of resistance, every moment of obedience, builds within you the readiness that the coming awakening will require. Holiness is not merely the absence of sin, but the presence of spiritual strength, forged in daily battle. And remember this, the fog will not last forever. The day is coming when all will be clear, when what you fought for in secret will shine in the light. On that day, the faithful will be called forth to lead, to love, to serve with power and purity. Will you be ready? The enemy hopes you will not. Heaven calls you to prepare. So fight now. Not for the fleeting feeling of freedom, but for the eternal reality of it. Fight not only for yourself, but for the countless souls who will need you strong when the awakening comes. If you want, I can now write the closing of your full speech by combining all these keynotes into one powerful conclusion. Just say the word. Here is a 600-word segment, expanding 4 keynotes into one seamless, speech-like passage. These are: the battle is ancient, the weapons are modern. Desire as a distorted echo of divine longing. The fog of war conceals the real enemy. And the coming awakening demands holy readiness, written in the C.S. Lewis-like style you requested. There is a dangerous lie circulating through the modern mind, that the struggles we face, particularly those of sexual temptation, are simply new problems brought about by new technologies. This is a comforting excuse for many, for if the battle is new, then perhaps it is not our fault that we stumble through it so poorly. But this is a lie. The battle is not new, it is as old as humanity itself. What has changed are the weapons employed against us. In former days the battlefield was more visible, the attacks more obvious. Now they come cloaked in 1,000 modern forms. Images on screens, messages in entertainment, algorithms that study your every weakness. What once required effort to pursue now pursues you relentlessly, appearing unbidden in your hands, your pockets, your thoughts. Yet beneath these modern tools lies the same ancient strategy to corrupt the soul by twisting its most sacred longings. You were made to long, not only for companionship, not merely for pleasure, but for union, deep, lasting, and holy. The ache you feel in your moments of temptation is not foreign to your design. It is the echo of a deeper hunger, a hunger for the presence of your Creator. The adversary knows this. He delights in it, for he understands that if he can hijack this hunger, if he can turn your gaze away from the eternal and fix it upon the fleeting, he can keep you from the purpose for which you were made. But do not think that your own body is the enemy, or that the longing itself is evil. These are not the foes you fight. The true enemy is far more cunning. He cloaks himself in the fog of war, so that you strike at shadows, while his work continues unnoticed. He whispers to you that your failures are inevitable, that your desires are shameful, that there is no hope for victory. This is his chief weapon, not temptation itself, but despair. Look, yet the timing of this assault is no accident. The powers of darkness are not omniscient, but they are observant. They sense what many believers do not, that a great awakening draws near. Across the earth, the Spirit of God stirs hearts. The dawn approaches, and this awakening will not be gentle. It will demand holy readiness from those who would serve in its light. And so the enemy moves swiftly now, seeking to entangle as many as possible in private sins, in shame, in secret compromise, for he knows that a heart divided cannot stand firm. He knows that a soldier distracted by personal defeat cannot fight in the coming battle. The call of this hour is not merely to personal holiness, but to corporate readiness. We are summoned to prepare not for comfort, but for war. How then shall you stand? Not by waiting for your feelings to change, but by acting in faith. Freedom is not something you must feel before you pursue it. It is something you must choose again and again, until it becomes your reality. Each refusal of the counterfeit builds strength. Each act of obedience sharpens the soul. Each moment of surrender to truth clears the fog a little more. You were not born into peace, you were born into war, but you were born for victory. The longings within you, when rightly ordered, can become fuel for your faith, not chains for your downfall. And though the weapons of the enemy grow ever more sophisticated, the ancient path of holiness remains unbroken. Lit by the same light that has guided the faithful through every age, now is the time to choose. The awakening will not wait for those still tangled in compromise. Prepare your heart. Clear the fog. Reclaim your longing for its true purpose. The King is at the gate, and you must be ready to stand in his light. If you'd like, I can now finish this with the fifth keynote expanded into a strong closing segment, so you'll have a complete draft of your speech. Just say, continue. Here is a 600-word segment expanding all 5 keynotes into one seamless passage, perfect for your full speech. The 5 keynotes are: the battle is ancient, the weapons are modern. Desire is a distorted echo of divine longing. The fog of war conceals the real enemy, The coming awakening demands holy readiness. Freedom is fought for, not felt, woven into a unified message, written in a C.C. Lewis-like style, as you requested. There is a grave mistake many make when wrestling with the force of sexual temptation in this modern age. They believe it is something unique to them, born of personal weakness or the corruptions of contemporary culture. But this is false comfort. The battle you face is not new. It is as old as humanity. The difference now lies in the brilliance of the weapons aimed against you. Where once temptation crept in shadows, it now blazes across the very devices you carry, beckoning through endless streams of images, sounds, and suggestions. The tools are modern, but the strategy is ancient. Twist the heart, distract the mind, enslave the soul. Yet why is this battle so fierce, so relentless? Because at its core, sexual desire is not a mere appetite of the body. It is the echo of something sacred, a longing not only for connection with another person, but for union with the divine. The Creator fashioned you with a hunger for intimacy because you were made for communion, first with Him and through Him with others. But this deep yearning, when severed from its true purpose, becomes a snare. The enemy knows this well. His goal is not simply to entice you to sin, but to distort your deepest longing into a force that consumes rather than completes. The tragedy is compounded by the fog that blankets the battlefield. Many fight the wrong enemy. They turn their frustration upon their own bodies, cursing their desires, or upon the culture, lamenting its decadence. But neither the body nor the culture is the ultimate foe. The true enemy operates unseen, weaving lies into the fabric of your thinking. You are too weak. You are too broken. You will never be free. A fog blinds you to his presence while he binds you with invisible chains. Victory begins not with self-loathing, but with clear sight. Recognizing that the battle is spiritual, and the real enemy hides behind 1,000 disguises. And the intensity of this battle now? It is no accident of history. The forces of darkness sense what many believers scarcely perceive. We stand on the brink of a great awakening. Across the earth, hearts are stirring. God is preparing to pour out His Spirit in a fresh and mighty way, and the enemy trembles at this. He knows that an army of awakened, holy, and free people will be a force he cannot withstand. Thus he works with fury to entangle as many as possible in private sin, to keep them shackled when they should be standing ready. If he can trap you in chains of false desire, he can render you powerless when the true battle begins. Yet take heart. Freedom is not beyond your grasp, but it is not a feeling you wait to receive. It is a fight you must choose to enter. Many wait for the sensation of deliverance before they act. They tell themselves, "When I feel strong, I will resist." This is folly. The soldier does not wait to feel brave before charging into battle. He charges and discovers courage in the fight. So too must you act now. Every choice to turn from the counterfeit strengthens your soul. Every refusal to bow to false promises clears the fog. Each small victory prepares you for the greater work to come. For you were not made to live in chains. You were made for glory. You were fashioned to stand in the light of God's coming work. The battle rages because your potential is great. Do not be deceived. Do not be distracted. Fight, not only for your own soul, but for those who will need your strength when the awakening dawns. The hour is late, the King is near, and your readiness matters more than you know.